Ryan here with LongRangeOnly.com. In this video, we're going to talk about the Snowy Mountain Rifles Long Range Shooting Academy. I don't typically do this. I don't have a script, which is my standard practice. I just like to, talk about the things that I'm knowledgeable about and give my opinion on things without using scripts. I am, however, going to use some of their notes from their class to make sure I talk about what they're going to give you and how that looked from my perspective. So I just got back. I'm going to do this in one video unless I get tons of requests to break it down. I think I can cover it in one video. And before I dive into this information, I'm going to tell you right now, I've taught myself everything that I know about long range shooting, and it took a lot of trial and error on some things. Simple things like loading the bipod, not loading the bipod, shoulder pressure, not shoulder pressure, how to make sure you're not tensing your muscles in the prone position, and all that stuff. Many of you have probably figured out, but many of you are probably trying to decide how you're going to figure that out. What I can tell you is I didn't know what I was going to get out of this class before I agreed to do it, because I feel like I have a pretty solid foundation. It took me a lot of practice, a lot of wasted ammo, and you could argue that that's fun. Anytime you're out shooting, it's fun. So waste may not be the right word, but it really is for some guys, because they just want to shoot better. They don't want to go out and shoot all day. They don't enjoy the practice. They don't enjoy the spending countless hours at the range and figuring out loads and all that stuff. They just want the skills as quickly as possible to go on the hunt of a lifetime, or maybe even start doing some PRS type shooting. And after doing this class, it has changed the way I look at things a little bit. Now, again, I've learned most of the stuff I've figured out on my own, but there are a lot of people that just want to go get it out of the way and get there as quickly as possible. And I'm going to show you, or tell you, I guess, why I think this Snowy Mountain Rifles Long Range Academy did an excellent job at doing that. So we're going to start with the level 1 course, and it's the fundamentals class. $200 or $2,500 is what it costs. They do give a 10% discount if you book it with the purchase of a rifle. And I will put the link to these pages on their website in our description below for the YouTube video. I'm not going to read the overview, but we're going to kind of go over the itinerary. Day 1, learn the fundamentals of a custom rifle, including the setup, ammunition, optics, accessories, and how they work together to create a shooting system. And then they went into ballistic design, problem solving, and wind reading. So for the first half of the first day, we were in the classroom and we did talk about this stuff. We talked about all of the components of a custom rifle, and by components I mean the whole system components. So your rifle, your scope, the mounts, checking your torques, how to make sure they're torqued, picking the right components, making sure you have stuff that's capable of doing the job. And that was the first half of the morning class. So we talked about rifles and how they all would help you achieve the goals of shooting long range and doing it with precision. After that was done, we dove into ballistics, calculators, wind reading, all that stuff. We talked about it from a very basic standpoint, and then we went into not crazy in depth, but enough that you could understand why this stuff was important to long range shooting, especially when you get into different atmospheric conditions and different winds on like hunts and terrain and all that stuff. I think they did an excellent job. So like they talk about on here, they did take a building block approach, which I think makes sense, but they really started at the basics, like bottom end. You don't know anything about rifles, you don't know anything about shooting. And even with all of my years of skills that I've acquired, the things I've taught myself, the things that I have learned while I'm out shooting, even with all that knowledge, I do think this was a great approach. I'm going to come back to that in a second, and I will probably mention it many times. The day two was we went to the field and started shooting. We learned proper bench shooting techniques, and I don't shoot from a bench very often anymore. Matter of fact, I very rarely do. But I do think it is probably still the best way to get a rifle dialed in without shooter inducing errors into the system. A good bench setup with a good front rest, good rear rest, and we showed that. And these rifles were shooting. They were capable of shooting sub quarter minute groups if you could do your job. Now, it is still a skill. You're not going to just slap it on the bench and shoot tiny groups. It does take, you still have to have correct trigger follow through, and you still have to know how to get the front rest set up, the rear rest set up. They walked everyone through that, and I think they did an excellent job. Okay, then we moved into prone position, and we started to apply all of the things that we talked about in class. We made sure that those rifles had a perfect zero, and then we started taking it to prone and shooting at 300, 400, 500, clear out to 1,100 yards from prone position. So we learned how to set up the bipod. We learned how to set up the rear rest. They had a bunch of different rear rests to play with. These guys were very knowledgeable in precision shooting, and they showed different. They were not concrete or very black and white or very rigid in what they were teaching. They just were giving you a fundamental idea of what you were trying to accomplish, and then kind of worked with the shooters to figure out a system that would work for them. And they were able to help diagnose when the impacts weren't quite going where they were supposed to. And so that was day two. I will say that this class was pretty small. They're typically a little bit bigger, but we only had 3 guys, including myself. So we did move at a faster pace. But the day one, the day two, as I just described, that's exactly how it went down. Day three is to continue to develop on the skills you learned from day one. Day two, at greater distances, incorporating other shooting positions, techniques that you encounter in the field, including tripod work. So we actually started that on day two because we were so far ahead. So like I said, we took it out to 1,100 yards. They were getting impact. And these were on 2-minute steel plates. So I'm not saying that the individuals were ready to go shoot in at national level in PRS and bench rest, or even take 1,100 shots at animals. And they did a very good job of making sure that everyone was aware of, just because you can do this doesn't mean you're ready to take this shot. You should probably back it up a little bit and then work more on your own. But they gave you the fundamental. And I do agree with the size of the steel plates, because it makes it easier to figure out what guys are doing wrong. If you're not hitting the steel, it's hard to figure out some of these shots in dirt. I don't care how good you think you are. A lot of times you're not right on spot on your impact. So I think it was appropriate. And then day two, day three, we started working on some positional shooting off of like barricade type stuff, off of rocks where we couldn't get prone. The situations if you hunt, you've encountered them. If you do PRS, then that's what you do. I don't practice that a lot and don't have a lot of skill in it. I'm not very good because I don't practice in it. So we did work off of positional shooting, and then we went to the tripods, which was what I got the most out of it, because I don't do that a lot. It was nice to be able to take the time and practice, and not just practice like I can go to my range with the tripod and set up and shoot, but we were shooting off of tripods in situations where we were shooting across a couple different winds, and we got to practice reading the wind and stuff. So I think that is a good summation of what the level one was. We started with rifle basics, ballistics, what it took from both of those to get a good, solid, long-range shooting system. Then we talked about what it took to get a good zero, making sure you're checking the torque on your components, because that's the number one thing that goes south on people when they start having accuracy issues. It's almost always a torque issue first, because people think they torqued it or whatever, or the system came loose because they didn't have it torqued right, whatever. So we checked those. We actually checked them, I think, every day. And then we moved on to shooting prone, learning all the techniques to make sure that you were not putting a lot of muscle into the gun, so to speak, so you weren't causing it to go off its natural point of aim, and that was the focus of all of our prone shooting. And then we worked into the positional shooting off of objects where we couldn't get prone, and then a lot of tripod work, which was excellent for me. When I go out west, I'm on a hunt. I have limited time. I'm there to chase the animal, kill the animal, take care of the animal, get back home. I'm not going to go out there in the mountains and practice with tripod. And that's just how it is. And a lot of guys are going to be in the same boat as me when they travel out west. They don't have time to practice. This was the perfect opportunity for individuals to take that time to get to practice, to figure things out, and get the skills needed to take some long-range shots. We were shooting steel plates off of tripods off the side of a mountain by the end of level 2, and I could never do that before. So that's the 3 days of the level 1 course. Now we're going to move into the level 2. I'm going to change pages here. Okay, and it's called the development class. It is also $2,500. And we're not going to go over the class overview again because, you can go read it. Again, I will put a link down below. It's review the basics covered in our fundamentals with special attention to the key highlights from here. We'll dive into a rifle system, the maintenance, troubleshooting in the field. So they didn't go over the things that we talked about, like in the weeds, just a 30,000 foot flyover to the things that we did talk about just to reinforce it. I sat through level 1 and level 2 back to back. Another guy with me was level 1 and level 2 back to back. I'm going to talk about him here in a few minutes. I will not use his name. And then in the level 1, we had one guy that came and did the level 1 because he had purchased a rifle from them. He did not stay for level 2. And then in level 2, we had a guy that had already done the level 1 previously, and he was back for level 2. So I'm going to talk about both that guy that had been to the level 1 previously and came back for the level 2, and I'm going to talk about the guy that started with level 1 and level 2 with me, walk through that, because I think it's pretty important to demonstrate or to tell you how the instructors did with those two different scenarios. Again, both classes were only 3 people, so it's a little bit easier, but I think they did an excellent job. So day 1, review the basics covered in the fundamentals, dive into the rifles, maintenance, troubleshooting the field, and then we got back to right back shooting prone. We didn't waste a lot of time, but we started back at 300 or 400 yards. I don't remember the close target, and then we walked back out to 11 just to make sure everyone was good again. Day 2, hit the field, testing our new skills, real-world settings. We kind of moved from day 1, going over the basics again, both informationally and shooting prone. Then day 2, we moved on to the harder tripod type stuff. And then day 3 continued with the applying the teachings from day 1 and 2 in the field. The ultimate goal, utilizing the fundamentals in your unconscious mind to develop skill set to make the conscious problem solving come into play. Collected data, build shooting positions. Some of this stuff was blurred between days, again, because we had such a small class and we were way ahead. The level 2, I still think it's worth it for everyone. I would actually recommend you just buy level 1, buy level 2, take a week off, go out there and do them back to back. And I'll come back to why I believe that here in a second. But we ended up on day 3 in positions where they would go set up a stage for us, kind of like you would in NRL Hunter. I've never done it, but I have watched it. But realistically, is very possible to happen in a real world situation. You got a buddy off glass and a couple 100 yards away from you. He comes over, grabs you. I got this animal spotted. We roll in, get everything out of our backpack because that's where it's going to be. Set up the tripod, get out the kestrels, get your dope, read the wind, dial for the range that you've got figured out, tripod set up, get your rear of the rifle situated. We use trekking poles, which is something I hadn't considered before, and then we take shots across the canyon. I think some of those were out there at about 1,000 yards. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were out there and hitting those. So you're in a real world hunting situation. Now, again, they're not advocating that you shoot stuff off a tripod off the side of a mountain at 1,000 yards, but if you can hit that, then you can surely back up to 500 and feel pretty confident. Now, they did have some really small plates. I say really small, probably some 1 minute plates in the 400, 500, 600 yard range, and we were hitting those too. And I feel confident if you can hit those, then you can hit the kill zone of an animal. So that's really what they wanted you to take away. Now, I've kind of walked through my opinion as we walk through their itinerary. I'm going to stop looking at this, and we're just going to back up to two different situations. One of the guys there hadn't shot prone. I think he said he had never shot prone before. I apologize if that's not what he said, but in any case, he had very little experience. And he had only shot an animal at 500 yards one time off a tripod, and he admitted that he didn't know that it was really ethical at the time because he hadn't practiced a lot. He did make a one-shot clean kill, but I watched him go from taking a little bit longer than average to get set up in the prone position, to get on target on day one, taking a little bit longer, and we worked at his pace. It was no problem. I actually, for the point of the doing this review, it was great to see it because I got to see how the class system worked and how the instructors worked around the different paces, because I've been doing this for years and this guy didn't have a lot of experience with it. So they walked him through all that and got him comfortable. By the end of day 3 of level 1, he was able to get down, get prone, get on the target, and no time at all. And then we actually started working on positional stuff early, which isn't typically part of the level 1, but because we were ahead, we started working on some of that. And he was already starting to build those skills. Okay, so then we moved into, and the other guy in level 1 had been shooting for a long time, but wasn't really into precision shooting. Not a lot of prone shooting, not a lot of tripod shooting at all. And it was nice to see him build those skills as well. Okay, then we go into level 2, and one of the guys that was in level 1 worked through that. It was again nice to see him build those skills to get on the tripod, and it pretty much at that point the playing field was leveled between he and I. I mean, I could range stuff quicker and get my ballistic data quicker and all that type of stuff. Get my stuff out of my backpack because I've been through the hurry up drill on countless hunts. But from a skills standpoint, playing field was, for all intents and purposes, equaled, and we both progressed through that to where we were making 1 minute shots off of tripods. And I know some of you you'll laugh at that because you're probably doing half minute. That's great. It's not a skill set I have had in the past. So they helped me build this. It was nice to see that. At the same time, we had a guy come in that had done the first class at a different time. So we were kind of in a different situation because the other guy and I had just gone through level 1, so it was fresh in our memory. The other guy needed a little bit of catching up. Not much. It's not like it's you trash all that information, otherwise it wouldn't be valuable, right? So he had retained most of it, but just get back into the groove of the things that we talked about in the level 1. And the instructors were able to tailor it till everyone was getting what they needed. No one was being held back. The pace was about perfect in my opinion, and got to see both of those guys go into being able to shoot off the tripod at extended ranges across the valley. And I got to build those skills as well. So I think that's all I have to talk about. I could do a follow-up video if a lot of people have a lot of questions. I will definitely have a link in the description below to a thread on the forum that I will start. You can ask me questions there, and I will also have the link to their classes. You can call and ask the guys at Snowy Mountain any questions you have. Okay, I'm going to real quickly walk through summarizing this, and then I want to kind of put the icing on the cake of why I believe that this is good. So just like I believe a good, well put together shooting system from somebody like Snowy Mountain Gunworks, those are probably my two favorite off the top of my head. There are others out there. Ulterra Arms is another great one, where you just call them, you order the rifle, and so we're clear, Snowy Mountain Rifles does that, and we were shooting their rifles, so I strongly recommend you looking at that. But just like I believe in buying a done system from Snowy Mountain, a lot of people will, say I can do it for a lot less than that. Well, I disagree. By the time you buy the custom rifle, you have the scope mounted, you do the load development, you waste all your time and money doing that load development, you're into the system for anywhere from, $8,000 to $12,000. There's a pretty big window there, but how precise you want that reloading information to be will dictate probably that last couple thousand. I think you're money ahead with one of those rifle systems. If you're a guy that doesn't like to tinker, you just want to grab the system, go out, go on your hunt, and have the best possibility you can to kill the animal that you're chasing, I believe in these rifle systems. I have for years. If you watch my videos, you already know that. The shooting school is the other side of that. You can go out and you can figure this stuff out just like I did over the past 40 years. I've been shooting, for 40 years. Now, I've only really been doing precision rifle type work, getting into prone, field positions, doing the narrowing my reloading skills down to where I could shoot quarter-inch groups occasionally and have those, 1 minute averages out at 1,000 yards. Yeah, you can do that over the, number of years just like I have, but it costs a lot of money. I have a ton of time and money wrapped up in that. You can pay them $5,000, go to 6 days of class. You can learn 75 to 80% of what I know in 6 days, and you're money ahead. You take the shooting system that you bought from Snowy Mountain Rifles, you take their education that you bought, and you're good to go. You'll build those skills as you shoot in the field. You'll be time and money ahead. I promise you will be time and money ahead. So if you can afford the time and you can afford the money, strongly recommend it. I think I covered it. The coolest thing about it was watching one of the guys go from very, very uncomfortable in the field positions to, I guarantee he was at 80 to 85% of what I can do on a good day as far as getting in the prone position, getting on the tripod, getting on an animal, getting all your ballistics dialed and making that one shot kill on the animal. It was nice to see this class and the instructors take him from that to where he ended up, and me as well on the tripod stuff. So strongly recommend it. Again, gonna wrap it up. I'll put the links in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, head on over there and ask me any questions. If you're not a member on longrangeonly.com, it's quick, it's free, it's easy to sign up. We would love to have you. There's tons of great information. There's a bunch of guys that know things that we don't know, have experiences we don't know. They're more than happy to share with you. So just go join. It's, like I said, quick, free, it's easy. We appreciate you take the time to watch. Have a great day.